a feeling that I think so many people had during the aftermath of Katrina, which was like, this is too sci-fi. It's too sci-fi that Blackwater is here. It's too sci-fi that this is being seen as a site for profit. Let's not forget that the other thing that was happening in New Orleans is that white vigilantes were hunting Black people in the streets. Let's not forget that the New Orleans Police Department has had to pay settlements because their police officers were shooting Black people to keep them from getting to safety. That future is already here.
And I just one other note, I remember when we were in New Orleans seeing Israeli security guards that had been flown by helicopter from Texas into New Orleans, and they deployed outside of a gated community. And when I interviewed them, they were from a company called ISI, Instinctive Shooting International, and they were there. Some of them were, veterans who had been in Lebanon, of the Israeli intelligence or armed forces, been in Lebanon, been in Palestine, and here they were with semi-automatic weapons deployed in defense of the rich in New Orleans.
We're joined now by two journalists who've just returned from New Orleans. On the line from Canada is writer and author Naomi Klein. Her piece in The Nation is called Purging the Poor. And we're joined in our studio by Democracy Now! Correspondent Jeremy Scahill.
I remember those days. We need to look really, really closely at these models, right? This is not about the future. This is about the present. If we want, and this is where the road we're on leads, right? So Rex Tillerson, now Secretary of State, when he was CEO of Exxon, after this company conducted their own climate change research in the 1970s, cutting edge climate change research, they were taking CO2 samples off of their oil tankers, publishing articles, their own scientists saying, yes, this is happening, yes, this is real, does this about turn in the 90s and pours money into climate change denial. Exxon knew all about climate change. They knew about it before Hansen testified on Capitol Hill in 1988 and said, yes, it's happening, humans are causing it. They knew all about it. They were already rejigging their operations, thinking about, and this has come out in the investigative reporting by Inside Climate News, by the LA Times, so now we know what they knew, when they knew it, or some of it, right? That they were looking at the opportunities that would come from melting Arctic ice and the ability to drill for oil. They were planning to raise their drilling rigs to compensate for sea level rise. They knew all about it. And yet they poured millions into very, very strong lobbying to keep the U.S. from signing the Kyoto Protocol. Full-page ads in the New York Times taken out by Mobil saying the science isn't clear. They knew the science was clear. Pouring money into climate change denial, spreading doubt. We lost decades because of this company. Finally, Rex Tillerson, I think it was in 2011, publicly says, yes, climate change is happening, but humans will adapt. Right? So if you can't grow food in one place, humans have always adapted. Now, how do humans adapt to not being able to grow food, Jeremy? They move. They seek safety. They do what humans do and have a human right to do. But we now are in this era of fortress continents fortressing themselves using these same private contractors. I mean, this is Eric Prince's new business, right? What's it called? Frontier Services?
Yeah, Frontier Services Group.
So he pitches himself to the European Union as the guy who's going to keep the boats from ever getting there. These privatized camps on islands, on Nauru, on Manus, where the Australian government intercepts ships, flies migrants fleeing war zones to these camps that are run by private contractors. By the way, this is what caused Donald Trump to hang up on the Prime Minister of Australia, because there was a deal made between Obama and Malcolm Turnbull, the Prime Minister of Australia, to take some of those refugees because the Australian government is so determined not to let them into their country. Rex Tillerson says humans adapt, but yet he's working for an administration that understands actually how humans are adapting is by turning people who dare to try to find safety into criminals.